All right, everybody. Welcome tonight. I really appreciate you all joining. My name is Erik Eisenhut. I'm the owner and one of the originators of the United Goalkeeping Alliance. I'm a goalkeeper coach here at Pittsburg, Pennsylvania with the Robert Morris University women's soccer team. Work with ODP in two fashions. One is with the Regional East goalkeeper coaching staff and also the PA West Goalkeeping Director with ODP. I believe this topic is something that is almost incredibly important and not talked about enough. And to me personally, I've seen the good and I've seen the bad, and I'm trying to make a difference in this. I'm going to tell you right now, and by no means an expert in this, but I do have a lot of experience dealing with teams, dealing with goalkeepers, and also dealing with parents, good and the bad. And that's tough because I think we all know about those parents. And then I don't want us to think like, because it was done this way to me, this is the way it has to be done to my kid. And that's not at all what this is about. This is about understanding not only what is mental health and what is mental performance. They are different, but also understanding the position. And to me, that is so important because not only do kids not necessarily understand the position, they have to learn it. It's different than the others. They don't get the attention they deserve. They're isolated in their training environment. It's a lonely position. And I'm going to throw a quote out there in a minute when we get there, but it literally is a kid by himself on the field listening most of the time. And you can hear what people say, other teammates, coaches, parents, and what's our role. A goal goes in, an error's occurred. What's our role on the field there? As a parent, what's our role? Chances are your kid's turning quickly and looking at you, right? So what can we do to support the failures that come with goalkeeping? And I say this to kids all the time in my training environment. You're gonna fail today. I'm gonna score on you. I'm gonna talk a little smack to you and have some fun. And I think that's really what, I'd like to get kids to understand is that it's part of the position is failing, and that's okay, but you need to learn from it. And I think when you get your head down, your chin to your chest, and your worst enemy can sometimes be the goalkeeper's head and his own head and his own mental thoughts. But what can we as parents do to support them? And then lastly, I want to speak to the United Goalkeeping Alliance, what it is we do, how we support goalkeepers in this fashion, and also speak to resources, tryouts, et cetera, because obviously tryouts are happening right now, and a lot of anxieties come with tryouts. I'm sure we all know that. Is everyone cool with the agenda that we're looking to speak to? I'm looking to hopefully keep this to 35 minutes as well.
Yes.
Awesome. Yep. I appreciate that because I can't see it, and usually I just look for like the bobblehead doll response. But because I can't see you guys, I'm just going to go with the yes. Thank you. All right. That said, do me a favor. I'm going to ask for a little bit of participation, and I appreciate you guys doing so because it makes it easier for me, but it also encourages dialogue and engaging conversation, which I think we need around this topic. So my question right now is mental health versus mental performance. Speak to mental health. Well, how would you guys define mental health?
The ability to keep a positive attitude throughout during the process of the game, and being able to shrug things off, I suppose, and when things aren't going your way, still being able to keep your head up.
Okay. Others, mental health. Let's focus on mental health.
Addie, did you want to say it?
Yes. Mental health is kind of like what you think of yourself, and good mental health is you think that you're doing great in what you are doing currently.
Right on, Addie. Nice. Anyone want to add to Addison's definition?
I heard a really good quote the other day, and it was life is 10% about what happens to us and 90% about how we respond to that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Because then if I go down to mental performance, that's that 10%. Right. And because you're going to see the mental health component really speaking to, health, a person's condition with regard to their psychological, social, and emotional well-being. So it's all 90% in your head. And that is, I think, an incredibly important piece, because how does this impact our thoughts, feelings, and decision-making process? So again, we haven't done anything. We haven't acted upon it, but it's how someone looks upon their self. And again, notice nothing to do with sports in these definitions, right? These are just how this, and I took these right off of, definitions when you Google it, to be perfectly honest with you. Stress, depression, anxiety, pressure, failure. When people think mental health, I think people think negatively almost instantaneously. And what I'm looking to try and do is turn it around, where it's happy, energetic, relaxed, positive achievements. That's what you're looking to achieve. That's what you're looking to get out of this, right? Jim, did you want something to say? Were you going to jump in there?
No, I'm sorry, Eric.
No, that's okay. That's okay. And then with mental performance, I'm going to continue to use that quote. That quote was fantastic. And I didn't plant that quote, by the way. I was just randomly said. So thank you. Who said that, by the way?
Oh, that was me, Amanda from St. Louis.
Amanda, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm not a plant.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you. I'll send you the check in the mail tomorrow. Mental performance is literally the conscious activities and the subconscious activities that impact actions, right? Good or bad. So how are they acting upon it? And it's the mental performance is where the game situations come into play. How you deal with a relationship, how you deal with a coach, how you deal with a teacher, a parent. How do you deal with a game? How do you deal with a bad goal? How do you deal with a teammate saying something? How do you deal with another parent saying something? Those are the things that impacts our actions, movements, decisions, results. So those are the concrete actions, or the 10%. Again, when I hear this, I selfishly think negatively. Negative self-talk, going through the motions, lack of confidence, not caring about the result. And how do you turn that around? But here's what I want to start to get people to look at is the positives out of this. How do you ask a kid to perform a positive self-talk after something negative happens, or just to set the tone so you're getting ready to set yourself up for success? Goal setting. We'll speak to that in a moment. I'm a huge component of goal setting and letting people think about whether it's in my company, whether it is with my own two sons, whether it is with goalkeeping. I want people understanding what it is they're trying to accomplish, and can they act upon it positively to get there? Because without goals, pretty much like a rudderless ship, and there's no direction to it. And again, how do we proceed with the most productive views, and how do we maintain that going forward, even in tough times? And that's where I think parents, mentors, coaches can help. Any questions or comments or anything people would want to add to these definitions and examples that are set here? Because what I'm going to do when I edit this, I'm going to put 90% mental health and 10% mental performance, thanks to Amanda, when I edit this after the presentation today. This one hit home for me. Josh is his brother, Sam Haffield, is United Goalkeeping Alliance coach. And Josh, if you don't follow him on Instagram, I would advise you to. He's fantastic with the comments he puts out there. The one piece that I really want to emphasize, though, is like they spend a lot of time alone with their thoughts. And that to me really rings true, because it is the truth. The ball's down the other end of the field. What are they doing to stay engaged? And we can help with that. Coaches can help with that. Parents can help with that. And are they thinking positively? Are they thinking negatively? What is their train of thought during these times? And what can we do to support their positive thoughts during these moments? Because these moments happen frequently. One of the things I always like to say to people is, especially when they start from like a U10 level, when I get a goalkeeper for the first time, literally the first time I speak to people, I tell them back to the failure part. I go, you are going to enjoy failing. I'm going to make this environment fun for you so you can be outside of your comfort zone. And when you're outside of your comfort zone, that's when development occurs. However, that's when the most failure happens as well. But we're going to provide an environment where you're going to be safe, and you're going to feel safe, not only physically, mentally, for messing up. And because the more you can do that, the more you're going to learn. and understand the why to the movements that you're trying to perfect. And it's hard. And no one starts anything as an expert. I say that to parents a lot too. Like, just enjoy your time with the kids, watch them mess up. And I know sometimes there are people out there that don't want to say that, or want, especially when they start getting more and more competitive, 15, 16, 17 years old, that it happens. And we got to figure out how we're going to deal with that, because kids listen, kids learn, they absorb, and they take it in. And they are going to process that from a mental health perspective. And then their results, the mental performance is going to result. And you can see it: chin to chest, slumping of the shoulders, kicking the ground, kicking a post, right? Slamming the ground with their hand after a goal goes in. How can we get them to act differently in those situations? We're not going to take away the seriousness that they want to treat the situation in, because a lot of people do take this seriously, and they should. It's a game, though. And I think that's the one part that I think people need to understand. We cannot grow without failure. So if you don't let it stop you from being all you are meant to be. Oh, sorry. So don't let it stop you from being all you're meant to be. Excuse me. And I believe in that. I really do. I also believe your mind, I believe the one on the right as well, law of attraction. Your mind's the magnet. Think of those blessings, they will come. You think of the poor performance, that'll come too. And it's almost like you go into a match knowing that a ball's going to, or thinking your ball's going to go through your hands. Guess what? That ball is probably going to go through your hands, right? It's just those mental repetitions that you're invading, that's invading your head as to what's eventually going to happen. And just do naturally, your hands are just going to spread apart. That ball will probably go in. And a lot of athletes struggle with that. So how do we do positive visions? How do kids think positively, mental reps? And I tell them when they go to bed, just start doing mental reps. Think of all the great things that you've done from a training perspective, because that is going to resonate in your brain, and it's going to help you with your performance. I can promise you that. Now, that said, how can we as parents help? And I don't want to show you the answers to this, but I do want to ask coaches and parents online, how do you believe we can help kids based on, the mental health? How do we get them thinking positively, thinking success, and not the contrary, so they can then put out a mental performance, a positive mental performance that we're looking for? How can we support them, even if we don't know much about the position, which I'm sure many of us don't? And that's okay. That's okay. But how do we help and support the goalkeepers here?
Well, I was just going to add, my son is in high school. So, the older you get, the harder this becomes, and the stakes get even more, higher. And, our coach, he basically tells my son every single game, every single practice, that your job is to stop the stoppable shots. And he said, they're not all stoppable. So there's a big difference there, right? And he says, he always reminds him, you're not on this field by yourself. There's a bunch of guys out here standing before you. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, he makes it more like it's not him alone.
That's awesome. Is that always the case? Everyone else?
Just a comment. I'm under Dean, and my wife and I are watching together. This is Joe and Billy. And one of the things we talked to our daughter about is that as a goalie, every single mistake you make is exposed. Everybody sees it. And other players on the field make mistakes, but they're not necessarily noticeable. Right? When a goalkeeper makes a mistake, it's a score. I'm trying to let her know that she makes a mistake. It's okay. Everybody on the field makes a mistake, but she's just more exposed than the other players.
Right. I love that. That's great.
Hey, Eric.
Yes, please.
It's Jim, Katie's dad.
Yes. How are you?
Good, buddy. I think it's important too that, after games, we don't discuss the negative stuff, which I think a lot of parents do. We always try to use the 24-hour rule, wait a day before we discuss really anything, especially negative stuff about the game. And I always when I talk to Katie about the game, try not to talk at her. I ask her questions like, what do you think you could have done better? Or what happened on that play? Or what do you think your defense could have done better?
Yeah.
But I never do it right after the game. we always kind of wait a day.
Yeah.
And
Do you
then
have a post game ritual or a post game? Like, is there something that you do regularly after a game instead of that?
yeah, I tell her good game, no matter what. I say you did good. You did your best. I mean, Katie struggled with, the high school team she's on is, she's had some difficult years.
Right.
And, she puts forth effort all the time, and I'm not saying she doesn't make mistakes, but we don't dwell on the mistakes. We try to talk about the good things that happen during the game.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of parents in the past. Obviously I'm not at the level of coaching that you are, but just coaching even Rec when she was little. I mean, the first thing that a lot of those parents said when the kid come off the field is, why did you do this? Or why didn't you do that? Or, what were you thinking? And I think that's probably the absolute worst thing we could ever do.
Yeah.
And soccer and life to begin with, I guess.
Yeah. And here's the hard part with this one is, like, how many of you, and I'm not looking for an answer here, this is just more of a general comment, but general question, but how many of us actually have goalkeeping knowledge or an understanding of the position? Right. And I think as parents, not only are we possibly a first generation player, our parents, and that our kids are our second generation, or these kids are maybe your first generation soccer players in your family. There's probably lack of knowledge there. So to add that comment or to add those, what were you doing? And put it hard on them when, it might come across ignorantly. And that's hard, when you don't know about it. It's more frustrating sometimes for a parent because they don't know how to help. And I think the mental piece, Jim, to your point right there is good.
Hey, Eric.
Go ahead.
Andrew's mom in Florida. How are you?
Good. How are you? Good to talk to you.
Good. You too. So I last year read this book. I don't know if you've read it. It's called Be All In: Raising Kids for Success in Sports and Life. And Christy Pierce Rampone wrote it. It's an awesome book if y'all haven't read it yet, but it gives you some great questions. And she even breaks down like the car ride home and some of the questions on the car ride home and that 24-hour rule. And it's a great read just because she walked the walk and, coached and has kids playing. So it's a great one. There's some great questions in there if you don't have a routine. A good food for thought book.
Could you type the name of that book in the author again in the chat function for everyone to take?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Jeff Tackett, I see your hand up, please. You're up.
Okay, I'm waiting. Sorry, I'm driving, or wife's driving. I think the biggest thing is for parents and as field player coaches also need to be able to do it. But number one is, can we change the narrative, first of all, of like a save for the goalkeeper and put it in a position right away that we know what's going to happen. We are the end result. We're going to either save it or we're going to get scored on. So biggest thing is no longer looking at it as a mistake, but just looking at it as a teaching moment. Every goal is a teaching moment. Every goal that we get scored on should be to learn. So if we could change the narrative for the kids to sort of understand that it doesn't matter if you're going to get scored on, that's just part of the game. But how do you look at it? Are you able to take how that goal was scored and not make it into a failure, an embarrassment, or any other type of fear, but get to the point of can you learn from it? And then the second part, just the coaching part, if we can start getting the coaches to empower the goalkeeper and more embrace them and be able to say, listen to your goalkeeper, or your goalkeeper's trying to tell you something, or they're communicating, you're not listening. That way the goalkeeper feels like they're part of the team and that because they're being empowered by the coach, which they look highly to. They feel that, that's where you get that fake it till you make it. Now all of a sudden you're getting the response from the coaches, you're getting responses from people that are now giving you that positive feedback instead of just the only time they talk to you is when you mess up. So it's a culture change, obviously, but at the same time, those are important things that we need to make sure we understand.
I love that, Jeff. Sarah, go right ahead.
What we did after a very hard loss when my daughter was in goal is, I talked about her, after just asking how she felt, and walking off the field, her shoulders were slumped. She was visibly upset that all of these goals got scored on her. So I took that time to tell her how awesome I thought she did, because she was doing things that I hadn't seen her do before in goal. She was running out to challenge the ball. I mean, you have a 50-50 shot of either making the save or it's going to get scored on you. And she committed. And I applauded her on all of the times that she committed to what she was going to do. And she didn't waffle. She either went for it or she would fall back. And that's what I just continued to do, was just praise her on all of the committing that she did during those shots on goal. And sometimes they go in and sometimes you save them, but you did a phenomenal job either way. And that seemed to help boost her spirits some, to take the loss off of her shoulders a little bit more.
You know what I tell goalkeepers when a goal goes in? Want to know what kind of shot that was? Lucky shot.
Lucky.
But guys, here's some things I want to just share with you. Oopsie, sorry. First and foremost, have fun with your kids. I love how you guys were talking about a post-game routine and you have them. I learned one from a friend of mine where they don't talk about really the particulars, but they'll talk about just how they're feeling, and they'll share a bag of Skittles. Something as simple as that. But it gets their mind off it. It gets them talking. And the other thing is this person doesn't have an understanding of not only goalkeeping, but of soccer. So any type of, I don't want to say criticism, any type of constructive feedback is more or less going to revolve around their effort instead of the particulars of what it is they're doing on the field. So how can they do that? How can they learn together about the position? The support group, to me, the United Goalkeeping Alliance and the support group that we provide, even just training groups. I had a group tonight of, sure, a handful of you guys are on the call right now, of around 7 to 8, 12-year-olds and under, like 9, 10, 11, 12. And literally, we just have fun messing up. We have fun working on techniques and diving and adding games. And it's like constructive recess around goalkeeping. But they love coming. They love talking to each other. We talk about the mess ups and we laugh at it, but enjoying the training and the practice that comes along with the wins and losses. And more importantly, the failures. You're going to fail. The kids are going to fail and have a negative spotlight on them at one point or another during a season, during a game. It's going to happen. And I can't, you're not going to be able to get rid of that. And what you can do, though, is support your child my son had a goal scored on him last week, late in the game. And it was kind of like the 2-0 loss. Like you're losing 1-0. They're putting pressure on the other team. They come down, they give up a goal. They're down 2-0 now with 10 left. And it's a tough, all that work, but there's nothing he could do. And he looked right at me and he's like kind of shrugging his shoulders, a little frustrated. I just gave him a thumbs up. Hey, thumbs up, man, whatever. There's certain things you control and certain things you can't. Celebrating those small victories and accomplishments when you have the goals that are set is also crucial. And if you can set developmental goals, and what I do with my kids, I have them, just the younger kids in particular, I just give them and I call it I take it from my days in corporate finance, but like the development plans and how to get them to their next level. But it's all basic stuff. And I just want kids to look at it and think. And if they can think about what they might need to get them to the next level and write stuff down, that's going to help them understand that each day, they're getting better and better. And if they don't have, let's call it a record of it, it's all in their head. And the last thing that typically occurs is there's going to be this negative thought process for goalkeepers. And we can help that. And lastly, and this can't be more stressed. I can't stress this enough. The number one reason why kids stop playing sports, the ride home. Think about that stat. That's a big finger being pointed at parents. And that's troubling to me. And you look at what's happening currently in the NCAA. I don't know if you follow athletics in the college athletics. There have been numerous suicides in the last 6 months based on pressure and whether it's, enhanced pressure through social media, and social media bullying or whatnot. I don't know the particulars behind that, but just that's tough. And if we can help kids get over and understand what they can do to help themselves with their mental health, to then allow them to have a solid mental performance, that's a life lesson. And if we can help them with their relationship with their teammates, their coaches, their teachers, future relationships, in addition to just who they are as people, they're going to be the leaders that we crave. And I say that just to young kids all the time, like, you are the coach on the field, you are the leader, and you need that blessing. To Coach Jeff's point, Jeff Tackett, by the way, a United Goalkeeping Alliance coach out of Southern California, to his point earlier, you need to endorse, or a coach needs to bless the vocals and the leadership of a goalkeeper, because to keep those negative thoughts out of their mind when they are alone. I tell my goalkeepers, just in your head, commentate, talk about where that next pass, think what the next pass is. Like, oh, George has the ball. George, look at Molly. Molly, look over there at Frank. Frank, look at, and if you're thinking ahead, it's also going to allow you to understand tactics a little bit better. And you're going to become a better player in that regard. But also, it's going to keep the negative vibe and the negative thoughts out of jumping in your head. Comments on this slide here? Does anyone want to elaborate on any of these, or would anyone like to speak to more in depth on these?
Hey, Eric, this is Lee McCutcheon. I'm a local high school coach here at Southside Beaver High School in Pennsylvania here. You actually have trained two of my keepers, you know very well, I believe, the Schreier girls.
I never liked them. They are awesome people. They're a great family.
Yes. So one thing that I do is I tell my team is my goalkeeper is sitting back in a recliner watching the game. She's got the game in front of her. She's on a big screen TV watching it, and let her bark out, listen to what she tells you, you know, type of thing. She tells you to watch the left-hand side on the defense, to, make sure you listen to what she says, because you can see what's happening before you know what's happening, type of thing. So, and I go over after the game and stuff like that. We do something, we talk about the stuff, but then after the next practice, I go around the whole circle and I ask the girls what's one thing they think they did good and one thing that they think the whole team can work on after a game, type of thing. And that's what we do. We pass the ball around and, until it gets back to me, and then, but, like I said, that goalkeeper, like you said, is just sitting there watching everything happen. And the 10 players in front of them should listen to what that goalkeeper, is trying to speak out to them. She's not barking at him because he's trying to be rude. She's just she can see what's happening. You guys can't, type of thing. So
100%. I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And interestingly enough, regarding communication, this past month in May, that's what we focused on in the UGKA, was communication and differences between, I think one week was in-game versus training. In-game, there's going to be tone. It's going to be short and crisp. In a training session, you can actually talk and thoroughly go through a specific moment to get everyone on the same page. And is that done? Do coaches do that? Because then when you're in the game, it's easier, right? We talked about vocabulary and tone. And then this past weekend, we spoke about in-game moments and what we can and should say. A lot of people just don't know what to say from a goalkeeper perspective. So can we give them a vocabulary list on words that they can utilize? What else am I going to say? Well, anyone else? Other comments?
Eric, hi. Hi, my name is Chris. Sorry, I joined the party a little bit late, unfortunately. But so my son is 16. He plays at a pretty high level. He's actually at a soccer school in France for 10th grade, and then for 11th he's going to England to a school. But how do you deal with the times where he's not picked as the first keeper? Any thoughts on that? So there's basically his age. There's another keeper who's his age as well, and sometimes Max gets picked to start, and the other keeper gets picked sometimes.
Yep. That to me is a challenge, and It's how do you deal with adversity? And one of the first things I do is I typically take the spotlight off of the game, right? Like all right, you just went through an interview process and you didn't get the job. Now what? Do you continue to work? Do you continue to apply to other jobs of the same exact thing? Do you say or work in that team environment if it's an internal promotion? And I'm using work as an example with kids might not have that experience, but you can speak to it in a way that when you take it off the game, it gets to a real life lesson. And I feel that if kids can learn through their athletic achievements and failures, they're going to be great kids when they grow up, or great adults when they grow up. So that's what I do with my son. Like my son, he's been cut more times than I'd like, right? At the same time, he's always out there playing and he's enjoying the game. And that's, if there's one thing I'll say to parents, I'm a Division I coach, and I have never, ever looked at statistics freshman year and under, ever. Right now, you get into your sophomore year, you're probably starting to look a little bit. There are game film and clips being looked at, I can't even speak to you until you're a junior. So I would just ask him, what can you do to get there? Be a great teammate. No one wants to have the internal fighting going on, and that's common with goalkeepers. Two of my best friends are guys that I went to college with that were my goalkeeper buddies, and we fought out for our starting jobs all the time amongst each other. And it was during the training sessions. We were all over each other, working our tail off. Off the field, we were each other's best enemy. I mean, best supporter, best enemy. We were each other's best supporter. And it's that type of like, how do you want to handle that adversity and challenge them from a life lesson standpoint? How do you want to work in other situations where you might come in second place?
Okay, thanks. I think the issue is, he's a 16-year-old and you're told, what, you're not starting, and there's if you like frustration with it because he knows he's worked really hard and in training and things, and he gets frustrated with the fact that he's being beaten out basically. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes.
And honestly, I also say that when I speak to my backup goalie and they're questioning why I am, someone else is playing over them, I quickly try to bring it to a point of, what can you do to get to that next level? What can you do and here's what I'm thinking, here's what I'm seeing. So how can you then work on these couple of things and show that you're looking to improve? Because the differences at that level that you're probably speaking to are probably very, very much.
This is for you.
Guys, there's someone, you can just put that on mute. Sorry, guys.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. That was me.
Hi, I just had a comment to add. When we get into those type of situations, we kind of take it back to the team environment. So if you're split or if you're bench, our son, we're like, you are not to question anybody. That is the coach's decision, and there's a reason behind it. And your job as part of this team is to get the other goalie as warmed up and ready to fight for your team. So we kind of take it off of the 1 versus 1 or why you didn't get, because that's just going to happen in life no matter what. You're going to go up for a promotion. You're not going to get it. Maybe you were more qualified. Maybe your presentation was better. I mean, face it, there's a lot of disappointment in life. And unfortunately, we can't guarantee our children that they're not going to have it. We can just help them deal with that because it is, inevitable. So we just kind of switch the focus to the team, and your job is to get that goalie is warmed up and be a team player and get him in, good shape. And it seems to work.
Here's the other thing too. As a coach, I want my backup kind of like, coach, come on, man. Like, I'd be disappointed if the player didn't come to me and ask why. Right? Like, I want them to understand. I want them to be learning about themselves and continuously developing and understanding what it is that they need to do to get to that get that starting position down. So I would just continue to just push. I mean, it's a hard position. It's like a backup quarterback. It's difficult to be on the sideline holding that helmet or the clipboard when your buddy's in there who you work out with, and you're thinking, hey man, I'm better than that person. You know, why am I on the sideline? But those relationships with coaches is incredibly valuable. And it's a great way to start with your again, relationships from a kid's perspective into your adult life. Like I've never spoken to a coach for my kids, and one's 14 and one's 11. Now I told them I'll stand right next to them, but I'm not going to speak for them. So if they want to know why they're not playing, if they want to know what they need to do, or if they're disappointed in a coach's decision, I'll stand right next to them and support them, but I'm not going to say a word in the conversation. And it's really helped them not only with their relationships with their coaches, but in understanding what it is they need to do from a goal setting perspective to help them get that job back or whatever it is. And I'm talking other sports. I'm talking football, baseball, etc. Other comments, guys? I just want to also, Sarah, go right ahead. Sarah, is your hand raised?
It shouldn't be.
Fair enough. Never mind.
Oops.
I can't share this message enough around the United Goalkeeping Alliance. It's something that I think when kids attend the educational sessions, they're talking, they're a group, they're inclusive. They have discussions about failures and successes around the topics that we speak to. What you're seeing on the screen, you guys can read. It explains for itself, I think, the support that we give these kids. And I think a lot of goalkeepers get left out and parents don't understand either. So when I said earlier, learn together, is there a way that you can communicate with your children about understanding the particulars of the position? And the more you can share back and forth, the easier the comments are going to be and the understanding is going to be after the games. On that ride home, is there a 24-hour rule? And I think that's a great idea. We do that in college all the time. We won't speak to anybody about the game immediately after until, pretty much the next day at training. Oh, I just want to let someone in here. Then there are two people who have hands raised. I can't see the names though. Sorry, let me check on this. Sarah and Colin. Colin, do you have a comment or question?
Yeah, I don't know if it's totally germane to the mental health aspect, but in terms of getting the most out of your player, better to be a backup keeper on like the top team for a club or the starting keeper on the second tier, which would be better in terms of, I guess, improving the player? Is there no answer to that? I'm not sure.
Well, in my mind, kids need experience. Right. So I think understanding and training regularly is good. You're going to need to be on that pitch to perform and to implement and fail. Right. And get in that environment. Last thing you want to do is be a backup. And then you finally get that call and your kid's going to be nervous. The kid's going to be excited, but also, is there a mistake? And then what happens? Does he get another shot? Is your confidence now shot for a long time? Or are you comfortable getting into a game and playing regularly and getting that experience and implying everything is that you're learning in the training sessions? So it really comes down to, I think, what you are looking for. But I also am very open to discussion about that. So I'm actually going to ask Jeff Tackett, if I could put you on the spot here, what would your comments be around that question?
You did put me on the spot. Can you hear me? Because I just went to my computer.
Perfect. Actually, we hear you better now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, no, that question is the $1 million question that is always thrown out, right? Is that role. I would agree though. You have to, the best teacher is to play. So I would say for a goalkeeper, I try to tell this to all my goalkeepers too, is that it really doesn't matter if you're on the best team or not. The goalkeeper just needs to play. Yeah. Right. So the goalkeeper really needs to just play. And if they play, the more they play, the more they're better they'll get, then the possible opportunities they will receive to play at a higher level, if that's what they want to do, or if they have the eyes to do that, either within the next level of college or just in club in general. So I think for that part of it, definitely it's always want to play. Just to the point also, I think I'm just being around the game so much, and you could also say on this is I'm not too sure how well field player coaches or the head coaches handle two keepers on a team, meaning there are ways that either you play the backup and starter role, or you play the half and half role, or maybe you play we split games. So there's three different ways that you could do it as a goalkeeper being put into that position. So once again, it's empowering by the coach of that communication, like we talked about earlier, of, realistically, and sorry, Colin, was it Colin's question, right?
Yes.
I think a big part of it depends on the age as well. I think we should put that into it, that, if we're talking 10-year-olds to 13-year-olds, then by all means, they better be playing as much as possible. If you start getting into that 16, 17-year-old, then you might start looking at they are going to be put into the place where there might be that starter and backup. But is it on this one, what would be that your keeper? What age would be the keeper?
She's U12. Well, finishing up.
Okay.
No, sorry, U13. Sorry, U13.
Okay. Yeah, in my opinion, it's all about playing at that age. There's so much at that age technically that she's still learning, that she hasn't even hit the tactical part of it all. And if you're not playing, then tactically you're not learning. So definitely play.
Yeah. It's funny. My Naya, you have a hand raised as well?
Yes. I would like to ask a question about how to motivate a goalkeeper for a fitness level. Usually, my son plays in a 2011 team, and so for him, motivating for a workout which doesn't happen as much as in the games and the practice. So what should I do? Where do I find a content which is specific for a goalkeeper fitness and endurance?
Yeah, so actually our next month's topic revolves around that exact topic in regards to goalkeeper specific fitness, goal setting, nutrition. It's all around goalkeeping habits, good habits to form. Now that said, I tell this to my own kids a lot. The only two things that you can control is your training in game environment, the game setting, like how you act and how you are a good teammate or a bad teammate in those settings. Only you control that. And only you control your fitness. No one else controls that. So from a coaching perspective, I look at that and I see who's coming in fit, who's not. And I also see who is a good teammate in those tough situations. And those are key variables for me because they control that. They don't control players don't control their playing time. Coaches don't control who the opening lineup is or who's starting. But they do have influence on those two things. So it needs to come from within, but at the same time, to answer your question, we do offer goalkeeping specific training and fitness. And you're going to see that advertised literally in the next week or two.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Guys, I do want to just quickly speak to some things that are happening locally here in the Pittsburgh area. For anyone looking for small group training, it's taking place in the Cranberry area and also Legends of Pittsburgh. You're going to see those dates in the days and the locations there. And then anyone who is looking for information on our residential camp that's happening in Pittsburgh, July 24th to 28th, I will let you know that there is only, I want to say 14 spots available. We have people coming from Florida, Ohio, New York, Long Island, and I want to say even up in New England. So yeah, we're diverse, and we have kids in college, and we have even some day campers coming in at the age of 10. We're only having 65 kids. We have 10 goalkeeper coaches, and we're going to keep and maintain a 6 to 7 to 1 ratio. It's all about small groups and learning and not beating up your body and just putting you through silly drills. Everything's going to be done with a purpose, and our goal is to get you out of there mentally focused and physically prepared for your upcoming fall season. If any of you guys ever have questions about this or want more information about this, you can email that info@UnitedGKAlliance.com. That was put in the chat earlier. Real quickly around tryouts, this was put out there and it's on our website or on our Instagram and on our Facebook account in regards to tips for training or for tryouts, excuse me. Many of us are going through the tryout phase, literally, I think starting last week and going in for the next couple of weeks. Some things from a parent's perspective, just keep an eye on the night before. Like, what can we do to help our goalkeeper prepare? Whether it's hydration, whether it's getting everything set and ready, getting there early, having them introduce themselves to the coaches, and just getting them having good thoughts. I see a lot of goalkeepers in particular just failed in tryout situation because they're so anxious about it and so nervous. And it's just a matter of, can we help them have fun in this situation? And that it can be difficult. So can we as parents prepare them with that mental health component so they can have a strong mental performance during this tryout? Anyone want to comment on this or have questions around this? I'm good with silence being acceptance, by the way. Questions, comments, anything at all that any of you might have? I'm looking to end this call in the next couple minutes, but I just want to make sure we have not ignored anyone's comments or questions that they may have had during the conversation tonight. Okay. There's my contact information, everybody. You can reach out to me anytime. And I mean this sincerely. I have been working with goalkeepers now for my entire life, I feel like, which is awesome. Now that said, I have worked with goalkeepers on a one-on-one basis around mental performance and mental health and just discussions from a week-to-week basis. I have worked with parents and smaller groups. It's something that I feel this stuff right here needs to take place more often. Just talking about it, to me, is an awesome first step. Now, as I mentioned, I have no professional experience in this, and I want to make that very clear. All this is based on my experience with coaching, my experience with playing, and what I've seen over X amount of years of just being a part of the game. And it can be great, but it can be just absolutely destroyed just through a simple ride home from a game. And as I mentioned, that is one of the number one reason. There is the number one reason why kids quit sports at a young age. Naya, do you have a question? I see your hand in the air. I'll just believe that was from the last question there then. Guys, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate you. I appreciate the time. Mental health month is this month in May, and we're going to do a great opportunity. We're going to put a lot of information out there through our podcast, the Goalkeepers podcast. I think every month we're putting out a mental health podcast. I think we have 7 out already, and the first week of every month we're going to release another one, and we've gotten great feedback on it. It's just the easy stuff. How can we help? How can coaches help? What are players' comments and how are they reacting to this? It's such a crucial part of a goalkeeper's development, a person's development. And we focus on that. As you guys know, we focus on the 5 elements of development: tactical, technical, psychological, social / leadership, and your physical component. And 2 of those 5 are your social leadership and your psychological balance. So 2 of the 5 are critical, and it's all right here between your brain. And how can we help our kids with that? Because that's obviously an important life lesson. Last chance for comments. I have 3 hands in the air. I have Jeff Tackett. You have a comment, brother. You go right ahead, sir.
Oh, you can does Andrew want to go first?
Andrew.
It's really Carrie. It's his mom. Sorry.
How are you doing?
So I know U.S. Soccer, I think, added a position, right, for mental health. That's on the U.S. Soccer. I just kind of blurb, I think, the other day. Is this something, as our coaches are getting their licenses? I know each coach, they're working up their way up to an A license. Some of them are. Is that part of the conversation with the training of our coaches in general? The mental health piece of it, obviously for the goalkeepers and the field players, is that a focus for U.S. Soccer as a whole?
I honestly do not know the answer to that question. I would love to say to you, absolutely, no doubt in my mind. I honestly can't say I know the answer to that.
Okay. I hope that it is. I hope on a larger scale, this is getting looked at, because I appreciate the grassroots effort. I think more kids are going to need this support across the board. And I certainly hope they're going to get it from coaches and parents alike across the board. So I appreciate you starting here, and hopefully it gains some traction bigger.
Hey, Carrie, I really appreciate you. Thank you for saying that and adding those 2 cents. And even at I know we're trying at the grassroots level, but there's obviously other levels too. And just going to the higher levels, just seeing the unfortunate deaths that's occurring is scary. It's really scary. I think it's getting everyone's attention, and we need to do something about it. And if we can start at this level and help people understand what's happening and what we can do to make it easier for kids, I'm all in. So thank you, Carrie. Jeff Tackett.
Okay. Really real quick to add to her point. I know over here in Southern California, we actually have started something for at least in the leagues. And I think that's where it's going to have to come from. It can't come from US Soccer unless they want to delegate it down towards the smaller organizations, where your state organization or your state league, where they need to come up and post certain like in services or whatever it might be, just to get the coaches aware of what all this means and kind of the stigmas behind it, the myths. I don't think I'm in the field of mental health, so I kind of do a lot more of it, not just with coaching, but in my other job. And I think I think the big thing is, and what is great about what we're doing here with the Alliance, I don't know how many of these people are part of it already, Coach, but I think, and we've had this talk, we did a podcast a few months ago when we had one of our goalkeepers passed, is that the more stories that we're able to tell and the more experiences that we as a community are able to express to these kids, coming from either us as coaches or the peer groups as well, it gets everyone kind of to the point where they are almost a little bit more relaxed, and they understand that these things happen to all of us. It's not just us or me having the bad day. No, it's all of us have bad days, bad weeks, bad months. And the more stories that we could hear from our pros to our collegiate athletes to our youth even, and our coaches, it just takes away that stigma and takes away the myths of mental health being such a negative thing all the time, and to change the whole culture. And that's what they're trying to do in Southern California with the league, is can we change the culture of making sure it's understood that the mental health is it's a good thing. It's just like anything, if you sprain your ankle, how are you going to go get it rehab? You can't wait until you're in a crisis mode, what we call it, right? You want to try to stay at that baseline, so you're constantly keeping your muscles going. You're constantly doing different dynamic stretching so that ankle doesn't just burst. And if you start to feel a little fatigue, then maybe you should stop. And that's the same thing with mental health. So can we get to the point where we're doing little therapy things within ourselves, not as a therapist, but within our community, so that nobody gets to a crisis mode where something snaps. And once we're in crisis, just like anything in our body, then we need some major help. So it's getting there, but it definitely, there is a lot of work to go. So I just wanted to point that out.
I appreciate you sharing that, sir. Thank you, Jeff. Guys, I'm going to honestly end it on this, a couple of my conclusion comments. Then I'm going to get you out of here. I went over my time limit, which I was trying to keep to 35 minutes. My apologies for that, but I also want to appreciate you for being here and understanding that, we're talking about your children. Simple as that, and again, that stat has been bothering me ever since I read it regarding why kids quit athletics. And if there's a way we can change or we can support, and even if it's just conversations like this on a regular basis, like I'm all into this. And there's things that I can do that I'd like to help you guys out, things that the United Goalkeeping Alliance can do to help everyone out. And we're going to do it. And so all your recommendations and ideas are not falling on deaf ears. These are ideas that have come from you. Podcast came from a parent, and we're hammering those out once a month. We have 8 of those right now around mental health and mental performance. this call idea came from a parent. Hey, and we're going to listen. And there's 25, 30 of you on tonight. So that to me is an awesome first step. And if you guys see benefits to this, I have no problem continuing with these types of calls. And if we bring our kids in, awesome. You know what I mean? Maybe that was something we can do to help them out too. But I just want to say thank you to every one of you on this call. And if there's anything that I can ever do to support you, support your goalkeeper, whether it's on the field or off, you have my contact information from a previous slide. Please let me know. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. Have an awesome night. Thank you again, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.